There has been lots of hype in the market around cloud and its disruptive nature. Many experts have enthusiastically predicted a huge rush to move all IT systems into the cloud and forecast wholesale changes to how organizations operate. Click on the speech bubbles to see a few examples. However, in reality, the market has initially been more tentative on the uptake. In the early days, tactical use of cloud platforms on an ad hoc basis, coupled with a few SaaS services, seemed to be the norm as organizations became accustomed to the benefits on offer and grappled with the uncertainties and complexities of cloud adoption. Today, however, cloud-enabled business transformation is no longer hype. Reality has set in, and many organizations are moving from "should I use cloud" to "how best to use cloud." Essentially, the process for developing a cloud strategy is similar in terms of logical steps to most other strategic planning exercises. Organizations may use a variety of methodologies to develop their overall IT strategy. However, there are some important considerations and increased emphasis in certain areas when defining a cloud strategy. Following a typical path of establishing organizational goals based on a shared understanding of potential, identifying potential opportunities for change, mapping the current state versus future state, and changing planning and control. Specifically with cloud, the process should include adequate time for engagement, learning and collaboration with senior management and line of business leaders to ensure all parties understand the potential cloud can offer, as well as consensus on the organization's attitude to cloud adoption, as well as an early indication of potential opportunities. Based on current understanding of the status quo, it should be possible to identify a range of potential cloud migration candidates and a high-level cloud adoption strategy or vision. There may be several iterations of this process, as the high-level plan or guiding principles are shaped by feedback from key stakeholders. It's worth noting at this stage that tackling each cloud migration or service adoption individually is more likely to deliver success than trying to comprehensively define a wholesale plan that covers all cloud adoption. IT leaders should focus on establishing a set of guiding principles, and then working through each case and candidate to determine what you want to accomplish. This is typically followed by an in-depth assessment of current environment, technology, people, and process to establish a baseline and help define gap analysis data. Stakeholders should be consulted and plans validated. Managing and controlling cloud initiatives is vital as cloud adoption changes the risk profile of IT services, as data and workloads are externalized. IT service management is impacted and roles and responsibilities are shifted. We'll explore the first two parts of the process in this module and cover the last two parts in subsequent modules. Most boards or senior management teams have some level of cloud awareness. However, as the deployment of these new technologies and services can have such a significant effect on how IT operations and business services are delivered, it's important to ensure a good level of board understanding to ensure context and to make them aware of the pros and cons of adoption. It's particularly important to help them identify how cloud impacts business operations, risk management, and service delivery. This should be combined with a high-level appreciation of the transformational nature of the journey that we were required to embrace these new models. It's also worth describing potential scenarios that are common goals associated with cloud use. At this stage, it's probable that several of these are already identified as possible objectives. With an improved and collective understanding of the impact, benefits, risks, and potential use cases, an organization will have a better appreciation of how to use or not to use cloud in its strategy. Click on the boxes to see how other key factors influence existing IT objectives and shape new. Existing business objectives might be accelerated or enabled, new revenue opportunities created, or customer engagement improved through cloud services. For example, an organization may want to use cloud services to give greater transparency of spend as part of an overall cost-effective drive, or require faster application development to react to changing customer demand or higher performance for the end-user services and data analysis objectives. Changing customer behavior, new geographies or markets, as well as regulations and compliance obligations will also feed into the cloud adoption strategy. For example, there may be a change in demand for online services in an organization's target market, or the need to develop a new service or application that will be well suited to a cloud environment. Leveraging cloud services and platforms to help with systems integration and modernization following a merger or acquisition. There also might be regulation or industry-specific policy considerations that impact on the use of cloud. As part of the market analysis, it's typical to review the competitive landscape. Recalibrating existing strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat analysis in light of how cloud technology might affect market dynamics and competition. For example, competitors launching new cloud-enabled business services or gaps in the market may prompt the need to develop new cloud-based end-user targeted services. Additionally, there may be a recognition that existing infrastructure and aging systems may be holding back business growth or limiting corporate agility. Consulting with trusted partners, other stakeholders, and line of business departments in particular is important, as they are more likely to have sight of vertical or specialized services, like niche SaaS applications, that should be included in the assessment and planning process. For example, the HR department may have already identified a SaaS HR application that may fit their needs. Alternatively, specialized service providers may have visibility of innovative technology or capabilities that will help an organization achieve their objectives more effectively. The senior management team or board as a whole should also attempt to redefine its attitude to risk and recognize that modern IT may operate at different speeds in different areas. The balance between risk and value is an important consideration, as cloud services can offer significant value, yet adoption does carry some risk. This will influence the organization's IT strategy, which will in turn most likely create a range of different approaches for each cloud adoption candidate. Attitude to risk may range from conservative and risk-averse to progressive and risk-tolerant. Consequence versus likelihood is a good approach to take when assessing risk versus value in each individual cloud adoption candidate assessment. This multi-layered approach is also mirrored in modern IT operations, as businesses try to address the need for agility and innovation, yet maintain reliable and well-governed systems. Terms like bimodal IT and multi-speed IT are used to describe these different approaches. Cloud has been a significant catalyst in this changing mindset, and using cloud along with other methods like Agile and DevOps, you can create an IT environment with a better chance of responding at the speed of business, whatever the business chooses that speed to be. A simple example of this is a banking app you use on your phone. Your bank might update your app on a weekly basis with new functionality like reporting and/or improved user interface. That is a reasonably fast release cycle. The main system that sits in the background and provides the mobile app with your account balance and transaction details does not have to change at the same speed. In fact, it might only have to provide a new service for the mobile app once every quarter. Nonetheless, the changes between those two systems need to align when new functionality is rolled out. Harnessing the cloud's flexibility, speed, and agility while maintaining effective governance and control gives organizations the ability to adapt to multi-speed demands. With a clearer understanding of your organization's objectives, priorities, its appetite for risk and requirement for agility, the use of cloud may vary from tactical to strategic. In most cases, a progressive approach to adoption over time is the most likely scenario. Click on the icons for the description of these states. The next stage is to develop a strategic plan with a defined list of potential candidates for cloud adoption. Reviewing your current IT systems, applications, architecture, processes and services, how they integrate with each other, the data they hold and the platforms on which they run, will give you the perspective required to identify potential candidates for migration and transformation. This may not require a full assessment exercise, but an opportunity to use your understanding of your IT operations to help identify potential. Try to understand exactly which cloud services are already in use within your organization and study this base of services. Look to build on your successful cloud applications. Where things are not working well, learn what to avoid in future cloud efforts. You look to review associated costs and terms. Who is using these services and why? Are these services delivering value to users? And if not, why not? There may be multiple SaaS services in use in the business with potential overlap in functionality. More importantly, how is organizational data managed and protected? All of the data and perspectives gathered during the process so far should enable you to work with key stakeholders and relevant parties to identify a set of potential candidates for cloud adoption or transformation. In this context, a candidate is an application, workload, platform, or service that may benefit from using cloud to improve its operations. Identify candidates that will benefit from modernization or that will deliver tangible value as a result of cloud migration. As you start to identify candidates that address the various goals and objectives that drive your overall IT strategy, you should also start to build a picture of the complexity involved, the resources and staff skills required, and work required to close the gap between current state and goal state. Lastly, it's important to define clear success criteria and quality assurance objectives for each candidate to ensure migration delivers the value envisioned. Once cloud adoption candidates have been identified, migration pathways should be drafted with high-level descriptions of what is being migrated, to what cloud platform or format, how these are being transformed or prepared, and an initial view of the value, complexity, and risk associated with the move. These candidates should be prioritized, special circumstances captured, and summarized in pathway templates. A key part of the process is adequate investment into establishing the value, complexity, and risk associated with a candidate migration. We'll go into this in more detail next. As mentioned previously, the focus should be on defining outcomes associated with the transformation or adoption. These should be clearly documented, validated by relevant stakeholders, and shared with project teams. There are numerous details to consider when assessing the suitability of cloud adoption candidates. Defining candidate pathways includes assessing value, complexity, and risk associated with the migration. The key factors associated with this include application architecture. Will moving a system into the cloud work well based on current architecture, or will it require refactoring or re-architecting? What interdependencies exist between your existing candidate and other existing applications or systems, and will these be affected or accommodated in the cloud? Will these transformed services require integration with existing or new systems to allow data and processes to operate effectively? Do candidate applications manage large volumes of data? Does the data require constant or regular processing? And is the data sensitive or data management affected by policy? Do you have the appropriate skills or expertise to manage the migration or transformation of these services? And if not, how best to train up staff or source support? Will existing licensing agreements allow for migration operations in the cloud environment? Are there SaaS alternatives that negate the need to migrate existing candidates? Do you have experience of target service providers, and are you confident in their capabilities and service? Including these factors in your planning will help you to prioritize and more effectively define candidate pathways. Cloud adoption affects more than the specific candidate to be migrated. There may be wider implications and some important considerations. Click on the icons to find out more. Do not acquire a cloud service without an established strategy for how to exit the service in the case of poor performance or unforeseen circumstances. Check contracts and understand penalty clauses in advance and plan for data migration to alternative services or locations before the need arises. Disaster recovery should be a principle established early in the candidate pathway process. It goes hand in hand with an exit strategy by defining what to look out for should things go wrong. Disaster recovery options should include avoiding just one cloud provider, so to spread the risk, and ideally multiple cloud providers that duplicate some services with rotation between primary and secondary. Separate backup services where needed. Data movement services and application or service portability. This is why avoiding using service provider proprietary components in any refactoring or re-architecting projects is important. Essentially, existing IT service management frameworks like ITIL, ISO 20000, COBIT, and TOGAF are still relevant after cloud adoption. However, they require a change of emphasis in some areas. Extending service management to encompass a growing mix of third-party service providers requires some planning, possibly some training, and clearly defined metrics and quality assurance expectations, including SLAs that can easily be tracked. While cloud minimizes some low-level IT management responsibilities, it increases the importance of service design and integration. Combining partners, cloud providers, and existing systems into a unified set of services that end users can consume and possibly self-serve is a common goal for cloud-enabled IT organizations. Change management processes will need to be reworked to provide more flexibility and faster turnaround time. Adopting ITIL standard change models is a good example of how to approach this. The process of migrating to the cloud and mechanics of managing the transition also requires some careful planning. You will need to ensure that you have the right people with the right skills that have the headroom or can be reassigned to the migration project. Establish a formal project or program structure. Don't cut corners. You'll need experienced project management leadership that ideally understands the subject matter and challenges involved. To maximize success, the team will need to be dedicated to this project, and the establishment of a separate business unit is ideal. Project leaders will need to stay focused on the defined outcomes set out in the candidate pathways, accommodate input from line of business departments, service provider, and other stakeholders. Get an active and interested executive sponsor and communicate extensively throughout the process. In summary, cloud adoption requires careful planning, but offers significant benefits to organizations that prepare well. There are a lot of points to consider and lots highlighted in this module. However, the move to cloud is a progressive journey over time, and strategies will morph and change based on experience and changing circumstances. This is to be expected. Many of the items covered in this module are expanded upon in later stages and modules. Please finish by taking a short assessment quiz to help validate your understanding of the course content. It will also help you identify any areas that are worth revisiting, and once passed, will give you confidence to progress with the follow-on modules in the Cloud Adoption Roadmap series.